Hello, my name's Alun R, and tonight I'm facilitating the second of a two-shot of my Dark Age hack of Monster of the Week by Michael Sands, published by Evil Hat, christened Eotenweard, Guardians Against the Monsters. Just to give you some sense of the background around this game, it is set perhaps 200 years after the Romans left Britain, and 250 years before the age of Vikings. And so, if you like, its look and feel is not dissimilar from Bernard Cornwell's Last Kingdom books and Prime's Vikings, because not a lot is going to happen in the 200 or so years between now and when those fictions are set. So we have a time of change. The south and east of the country is dominated by Saxon kingdoms, Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and the north and the west of the country by a network of Christian Celtic kingdoms. There are still some old families that claim descent from Rome, described in our fiction as Romano-British. But generally speaking, all that's left of Rome is the networks of roads they built in varying states of repair, increasingly ruined stone buildings in largely deserted towns. And frankly, most locals think that those ruins must have been the work of giants, because they are so far beyond the timber-based building skills of the current day. In our alternative Dark Age, the supernatural world is very real to these people, whether they see it through a Christian lens of good, evil, heaven, hell, or the pagan lens of the Anglo-Saxon gods, Woden, Thunir, Frigg, and Tyr, and the rest of that lot, the Aesir, who one day will fuel a Marvel franchise. There are some, though, that cling to the old gods of pre-Roman Britain, though they are, generally speaking, rare and subject to suspicion. So where we got to in session one was that our characters had arrived at the Anglo-Saxon settlement of Synhamm for a variety of reasons, but believing that there was evil afoot. And so in that first session, they began that investigation. The aim of this game, just like Monster of the Week, is to determine what kind of monster is behind what's happening and save the innocents. So what I'm going to do before I say anything else is I'd like our three players tonight. The fourth player from last time can't be with us tonight, but I'll deal with that shortly. But I'd like to ask, in the order of the character keeper is in front of me, Will, can you start by describing your character and telling us something that stood out last time in terms of what he did or what he saw? Thank you.
So my character is Blackwin, and he is the Hammer of the Gods. He is a man who is driven in his search for vengeance towards, to bring doom upon the monsters and ultimately to himself. And he's your average sort of grim warrior, man of little words, and the words that he does speak are not cheery to anybody. And that was my favorite moment from last session, where a guard came and tried to butter me up to join the soldiers to defend the village, and then the grim words of Blackwin talking about dead children and burned villages and the worthless taste of honor in your mouth as it mixes with the ash sent him stumbling away, scared of the big hulking man with the dead eyes.
And a very intimidating individual he is too. Vasilius, would you like to tell us about Callum?
Yes, hi, I'm Vasilis. I joined the Gauntlet actually a week ago, and tonight I'll be playing Callum, the loon. He's a Celtic loon. He started behaving erratically and having visions after he almost drowned in a river in his hometown. So he joined the rest of the party coming down to Synhamm, and some highlights from the last session is he was called Monkey from one of the guards in town. And he was fascinated by the appearance of the raven spirit from Aelnoth's exorcism, and he had the premonition that the next significant event will happen when the ravens circle the tower.
That's great. Thanks very much. And finally, Erez, tell us about Eotenweard.
So my name is Erez, as you said. I've been in the Gauntlet for a very short time, and this is my third ever session in a Gauntlet game. And I play Eotenweard. He's a Romano-British guy. He's big. He's very religious in the whole Christian faith, and he wants to bring justice into the world. In that session, his brother and some people that joined in came to Synhamm in order to fix some sort of problem. Apparently, we found the problem, and right now he just wants to kill people for causing problems.
Yeah, and that's a perfectly legitimate role for a warrior of God of this time. Kill the pagan, win the prize. Yes, our fourth character last time was Eotenweard, the priest. And Eotenweard came to Synhamm because he had a vision from God that said he should go and kill the false priest. And I think that probably, as was hinted at in that summary, the climax of the last session involved Eotenweard becoming convinced that Eilnoth, the Saxon priest of Woden, was the priest he was supposed to deal with. And so he performed an exorcism, believing that Eilnoth was causing the illness of Jarl Widuc, who rules Synhamm. During that exorcism, something indeed came out of Eilnoth. It was a dark winged bird spirit, a raven spirit, that circled the great hall and then disappeared. And it was at that point that our Celtic loon, Callum, had this premonition that the next significant event at Synhamm would be when ravens circled the tower. Fictionally, Eotenweard has run from the hall, I think shocked by what he has achieved or what he has done. As a jolly, merciful man, the mission from God to kill anybody was a difficult one for him, and he has run from the village into the fens to consider his place in the world and whether, in fact, God is telling him right or wrong. So what we will pick up is exactly after we left off the last session. So we have Jarl Widuc lying in his bed. His forehead had blistered where the village priest, Father Humlocutus, had marked the sign of the cross. This was the clue that somehow he was being influenced by ungodly creatures. That is what set off the suggestion that perhaps Eilnoth was the source of evil. We have Kaya Delvia, the Lady of Synhamm, Widuc's wife, in the room, I think looking horrified at what she has seen. She is a Christian and sponsors Father Humlocutus in the village. And the three characters. So I think the starting point should be, I'd like each of you to describe what you are feeling right now, in any order you like.
So Blackwin is holding on to, is searching for his axe and looking to see if any supernatural threat will come. And he's also got a wry look on his face briefly as he sees Eotenweard, the man of God, who clearly held some kind of grudge against him for Blackwin for his violent ways, is overcome with the tension and drama of the scene that he's created. But there are innocents here and there is evil afoot. So Blackwin's standing ready and looking to Eotenweard for this is his mission, really. Blackwin's just here as a strong arm.
Okay, Eotenweard, I think that you had a premonition that you were coming to protect Kaya Delvia, the Lady of Synhamm. What are you feeling right now?
Lots of rage. Once I saw the demon coming out of the pagan guy, what I feel is lots of anger and rage, especially after trying to see his, how is it called, true self, using the true side and failing miserably. And right now I just want to kind of put a knife in his chest.
Well, I was going to ask you, where is that rage focused?
On the pagan fool who's bringing demons into the world, basically.
So Aelnoth the priest,
Yeah.
the shaman of, yeah. So that's where your rage is channeled. I'll come back to that in a moment. Callum, what are you thinking at the moment?
I think Callum was in awe of this spirit, and he's almost also a bit breathless because he was seeing this vision of the future with the raven circling the tower. But now, as Ethelred charged off out of the chamber, he's a bit confused now, and he's looking at the pagan with curiosity, fascination more than hatred or anything like that. So he wants to learn more about this.
Okay, so Blackwin is ready for action. Callum is intrigued. What exactly does Evurius do right now?
He walks straight to the pagan priest, would lift him up with his hand, one hand up, and basically ask him, like, what are you doing? Well, how did you do that? And is there more? Where did it go to?
He's hanging limp and unconscious. He hasn't moved since the exorcism was completed. So he's just hanging there. You can hold him up, but he's not able to stand on his own 2 feet.
We need answers. I look at the other two and Kaya, and
maybe we should take him to the ale.
Praying.
Maybe we should take him to the alewife, Evurius. She might be able to rouse him, so we can ask this shaman what it was.
Idea.
I think the Callum also approaches the unconscious body of Aelnoth, and I think he starts sniffing. He wants to. He even starts looking if he has any pockets or anything, or any, because he actually also grabbed his rattle bone, and he's really intrigued by. He wants to learn everything about this.
Aelnoth has a number of necklaces and charms and fetishes, as well as the bone rattle hung about him, as well as, though it will probably have fallen off his head, the wolf skull and fur. So there is all sorts of stuff all over him, and you can certainly collect it.
Yeah, I think Callum would like to. I think he's sniffing the fur, and I think he's going to take the skull in his hands, and he's looking at the wolf skull, and also looking at the beads and see if he has seen anything like that before. The beads around his necklace, around his neck. Yeah.
Okay. So Evurius, Blackwin has suggested, I think, taking Aelnoth to the alewife to revive him with a drink, if I've understood that right. What are you actually going to do? Because you have him in your hands.
Oh, yeah, 2 questions. Do I need to do his servant at the beginning of each session, or it's like?
You are certainly able to do that. I'd forgotten to ask about those start of session moves. So by all means, do that.
Yeah, I think I should do that first because that might give.
See if God offers any better guidance this time than last time.
That's 6 plus. There's 9 plus. It's no, wait. Yeah, by subtle. So that's 0. 6.
So a 6. Yeah. So what you get a point of experience, which is always worth it. And as you look into Aelnoth's eyes, as you're kind of shaking him, you are transported in your mind to a very similar scene to the one you saw last time. Aelnoth is not there. You appear to be walking on dark waters, with stuff moving underneath the waters, and a clear perception that the Lady Caerdelvia is still threatened. It's almost as though nothing has changed.
Okay. I will look at Blackwing and be like, I think I'll take your idea. Let's wake this fool up.
Aye. Come on, I'll take him.
So you carry him outside the Great Hall into the village proper, where Mineda, the alewife, is very happy to help you revive him with a cup of ale. Callum, are you going with them, or are you staying in the hall?
Callum will, is there a window in the chamber? He wants to observe the sky.
Yes, there is. They're pretty small windows, because if you remember this ground floor there, which is the most complete part of this old Roman stone tower or fort. So there are some grilled windows. They're mostly hung over with skins to stop the draft, but certainly you can pull one of those down and look out. You won't be able to see the top of this structure, but you can certainly see the sky. What are you looking for?
I think he's still looking for birds. Like he as if this spirit will manifest itself around town. He's searching for that. But even if he doesn't see anything, I think his urge is going to be to even go outside and see the wide at the entrance. But first, I think he will look at the closest possible vantage point for the sky. Yeah.
There are several windows around both this partition chamber at the back of the Great Hall, where Widdock is abed, and then similarly round the sides of the Great Hall. So you can get a pretty reasonable kind of squint out at the horizon, but not necessarily very far up. When you leave Widdock's chamber, the Caia Delvia has collapsed, almost distraught, and is weeping at the bedside of Widdock, while Father Humlocutus, who's begun to recover because he was accused initially of being the cause of Widdock's spiritual ailment, he's recovering and he's comforting her when you leave. I think what we'll do is we'll cut to the alewife, and what I want to know is what exactly are you doing, Ivurius and Blackwing?
Well, Blackwing had the idea how to wake him up, so I basically give him.
I asked the alewife for any strong spirits or that kind of. I assumed that she would be, not just a brewer of beer, but also something that's closest to a medicine woman that you would find in the village.
She certainly has some mead, which she keeps for special occasions, and is quite potent. So she can certainly give you some of that, and might have perhaps a refreshing herbal infusion that you could try on him as well. And he begins to come around. Whether it's the mead, whether it's the infusion, whether it's just the fact that you're shaking him to get it, but his eyes open, but the pupils are rolled up into his head, so you see largely the whites of his eyes, and he is alive, but has lost all sense of the world around him. Is the impression you get.
Try to shake him harder.
How do you want to shake him enough to start doing him harm? Because
Blackwing will steady his holy warrior's hands as he shakes this poor limp man's from side to side, and then he'll turn to the alewife. Good wife, where does this man make his home?
There, if you remember, there's the outer part of the village, which is Celtic, and then there's an inner part of the village around the Great Hall, the Roman fort, which is where the Anglo-Saxon longhouses are. And it is a substantial longhouse at one end of that, with a variety of carved statues of the Saxon and Anglo-Saxon gods. And that is where he and his family live. And I think probably by the time you are taking him in there, his family will have come to find him. And there's wailing daughters, sons, nephews, wife is wailing, "What is the matter with Eonoth? What is the matter with Eonoth? What has happened to him?" Do you hand him over, or you've got something to say to them?
Certainly not handing him over.
Evarius, do you want to make your accusations?
Yes. This man has brought a curse to your settlement. And this curse has to be dealt with. Do you know anything of it?
I think probably no. So you are in the middle of the Saxon portion of the village, and Anglo-Saxon men, women, and children are now spilling out into the space. And I have to say, they're looking pretty threatening, because you're making some significant accusations against someone that they revere. What do you do?
Demons came out of this thing as it caused disease to your leader.
So Blackquin will he's hoping that Evarius would have some more holy fervor in trying to make his accusations.
Ah, yes, that's a good idea.
Do you want to do you want to tell the rest of us what you're seeing, Evarius, in terms of a move, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, holy fervor is to convince someone by invoking your belief, savage instead of subtle. But I basically tell them all, like, this man is a pagan man, and he has brought disease on your leader, and a demon was just released out of it, which must be dealt with. God will save you.
Go ahead and roll convince someone, rolling 2d6 plus savage.
Do I need to declare that I'm helping someone before they roll or after they roll?
I'm very happy for us to see how it goes, and then we'll see whether your 2 peneth worth makes a difference.
12.
There is stunned silence. Not so much at the talk of demons, because I'm not sure whether Anglo-Saxons have a sense of demons, but certainly the idea that Eonoth has somehow hurt the Lord, Eol Widdock, that is what's brought him up short. And they come forward to take Eonoth away. We will care for him, but the threat to you has gone. What do you want to do?
Do you know what was it? What did he do in the last few days, the last few weeks?
I think the first thing that his son, who will probably be the priest of Woden after him, his son will say, "Well, you claim this. What did you see?"
A great black raven, wings the size of a man's arm, flew from the man's body and swept across the room and vanished, and now left him like this.
Now that's interesting, because that's the first time that Blackquin has actually verbalized what he's seen. He saw some stuff, but he's never described it quite as precisely before. And as he's saying it, there's a kind of dawning realization of what he might have seen. Because the symbol of Woden is the raven. And that is certainly what Eonoth's son is seeing. And he says, "Woden visited my father?"
Aye, and left him in this state.
Possessed your father.
Woden possessed my father? And what is clear to Evarius is what he sees as demonic possession is seen by these Anglo-Saxon followers of Woden as an immense gift. And that they are now revering Eonoth as a vessel of Woden. And they want to honor him.
Woden is meant to be a great god. Could a mere priest drive him out of his own chosen?
A priest of God drove him out.
A priest of the Christian God, aye.
I have to say, that's lighting the blue touch paper on a bit of interreligious fervor going the other way. They're now looking at Evurius in a threatening way again, because what you seem to have told them is that they feel that Woden paid a great favor to Aelnoth, and then you, Christian, drove him out. And there's much furrowing of brows and muttering under their breath. Do you stay and face it, or do you back off?
Stay and face it.
There are 15 adult men here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy for you to face it, but I want you to make sure that you understand what's at stake.
Yeah, I'll probably take a second look.
Can I make them understand what's at stake? Because there may be 15 of them, but there'll be less than 15 by the time we're finished if they push it.
If you want to, I think you're hoping to inspire a bit of fear, are you?
Yes, that's it. I'm using my move, Fear Me, and then trying to convince someone with Intimidation.
I have to say, I'm going to make you roll with disadvantage because the Christian has wound up the crowd, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah, I put my foot in it with that. All right.
That's his fault, not mine.
That's just a 5. So
yeah.
Can I help him?
You can, but I doubt you'll make a big enough difference. And to be honest, I'm not sure there's anything you can say that's going to sway this crowd right now. So I think what we've got here is that Blackwood marks experience, and you need to decide: do you retire to the Great Hall, go one way, retire into the Celtic village? They might follow you. I don't know yet. Or do you stand and face them? Because this is about to turn nasty if you stay put.
I think the Hall may be the best choice. The woman you want to protect is there, no?
Yes, I throw the pagan fool like to the crowd and be like, deal with your own demons. I have someone else to protect here.
And clutching the shreds of your dignity about you, you retreat to the Great Hall. I get that. Okay. So they will be occupied with worrying about Aelnoth. And the two of you will get back into the Great Hall, I think, probably at the point at which Callum has finished looking at the sky. And I can tell Callum that there are no particular patterns of birds visible.
Yeah, I think the moment Callum is about to step outside, and then he bumps into the two other characters. Oh, you're back. Did you find anything? Where's Aelnoth?
With his people.
Did he fly up?
He fell down.
Hard.
Seems to be nothing but a shell of a man now.
The ravens always rise up.
His followers believe it to be Woden himself.
Woden.
Fools, begging fools. We need to help the woman. We need to help her husband. We need to figure more things out. Do you know anything about this kind of things? Where would it go?
Been looking at the sky, but there's silence after the big bird came out of him. There has been silence in the sky.
Does Callum want to? Because he's got the original pattern. He's got the emergence of the spirit. They've now told him that some people at least believe that this was Woden leaving Aelnoth. Does he want to see if there is any other pattern, whether the pattern has become clearer?
Could I just suggest, sorry, I don't want to, but I just noticed that Callum's soul move is Trust Your Gut, which might be more useful.
Yeah, maybe
leading us to a new clues.
I would say either, see a pattern or even follow his gut, in the sense that he even closes his eyes and he tries to, maybe is there some part of the hall, is there some part where he can actually go outside? Maybe I think he will just go into, he will try to seek a new pattern, but probably just following his his senses, something like that.
I'll remind you mechanically that in order to activate your soul move, you either have to sacrifice some harm, or take some harm, or sacrifice some of your fate. Do you want to make a blood sacrifice of some kind and take some harm, or do you want to sacrifice a point of fate?
And the fate, as a part of the fiction, is something from his soul, or
yes,
okay.
Exactly. It's trusting his gut, is really trusting his luck, and so in his case, I think you can treat fate as luck almost.
Mm-hmm. I think he will take his knife actually, and he will actually cut his hand, and he will spill some of the blood on the wolf skull that Eotenweard had, and he will raise it up in the sky. So he will take, I think, harm, and he will try to roll. This is soul. The soul move is.
It is.
Let's see. I have plus. I have +1. Okay, and then. So 2. So I just select the 2 dice and then submit, right? Or reroll selected. Yeah. Reroll.
Yes, reroll selected. If you submit, you'll get another set of dice.
So it's a 7 + 1, 8. It's an 8, which means.
So tell us what that means for this move.
All right. On a 7 to 9, the GM will tell you where you could go, but with no advantage. The advantage, I guess, the advantage is for my next move, or is it?
If you roll 10 or better, then you would get a sense of what you should do. What is your gut telling you? But you'd also have advantage while following up with that.
Right. Okay.
On this occasion, and there is a staircase inside, a stone stair inside the old Roman fort that goes up to the ruined upper floor. And I think what I envisage is him going up there with the bloody skull, and just, what should I do next? And can I just suggest you have a look at the map of Synhamm that you've got access to? I think you can see the Great Hall is down there at the bottom left, on almost a little island of its own. And so he stood at the top of that great stone block. And as he looks around, can you see a way to the top right of the map? There's a significant hill with another stone structure on it. It's labelled on that as being just above Questlin Common. And what you're looking at there is an ancient British hill fort with a very ruined round tower on the top of it. So I think that I would say to him that, having kind of thought about what do I need to do, you've thought about this tower and you're getting nothing. But look over there, a second tower.
Yes, I think Callum, as he closes his eyes, he takes a breath in, he even spins around himself with his eyes closed, and then he when he opens his eyes, his bloody hand and skull is pointing towards the what is it again, the Questlin Common Hill. And the others, he shouts, even if there's no one there, he shouts, "That's the tower. That is the tower."
I think in the film version of this, they are in the yard below, and looking up at him on this rampart. You see the spinning, and then there he points to the northeast.
Indeed.
We'll have to talk about your blood rituals later.
Sorry,
but
about
I need
what?
a better weapon.
Ivirius is not one of God's more tolerant servants, is he?
He's not. Not with blood rituals.
So Blackroom will ask, Caradelvia is still too shaken to speak, I assume, at the moment. Is father
I mean, to be honest, you bumped into Callum as you were going back to the hall. I'm not sure you got as far as Widdock's room, his bedside, where she was. So, do you want to go and have a scene in that room?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go running off to the tower if that's the consensus, but I think as we could do with asking Kaidelvir about Aelnoth and then asking someone about this tower before we set off and leave behind the only person we're here to protect.
Interesting point. So, okay, so you return to Jarl Widdock's partitioned room and his bed, where he still lies looking just as delirious and uncomfortable as he was before anything left Aelnoth's body. And Kaidelvir is kneeling beside the bed with Father Humlocutus, the village priest, Christian priest, and they are praying mightily for guidance, help. What else could they do? So what do you want to do?
Blackwin will stand awkwardly for a second and then just say, without any kind of interruption, and just say, "What do you know of Aelnoth?" And then he'll wait for a response.
he is the hammer of the gods with a few words, isn't it?
Yeah,
and so
like a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that certainly that will disturb the chain of their prayers, and they'll both stop and turn towards him. And Kaidelvir will say, "Where is Aelnoth?"
With his people.
What have we seen this day?
They seem to think it was Woden himself.
And there's a kind of from Humlocutus, because while it's not his second nature, he does know that Woden is linked to ravens, and so he that kind of provides him with an answer for what he's seen. And to be honest, that's what he wants at this point. He wants to understand what he's seen, and he's prepared to take that as an explanation.
But why would Woden strike down the Jarl?
Now, that's an interesting question, and I'm not sure that they've thought of that. Could it be that Woden has taken revenge on Widdock because he allowed Kaidelvir to build a church here? I'm not sure they'll say that, but I think you'll see it cross their minds.
It was no Woden, it was just a demon, a black, shadowy demon.
Yes, it's all demons, Iverius. I know. But we must...
Remind me, which one is the loony?
There's no other god than the one true God, and that was nothing more than a demon who left his own host half dead.
And I think that may be true, but I'm not sure that it provides much consolation to Kaidelvir at this point. So what are you going to do, guys?
I think Callum also runs down the staircase, and he goes near the priest and he says, "Tell me about the Kestlin Common Tower. What lies there?"
This is a bit of change in terms of where this conversation was going, but I think Father Humlocutus will be actually quite relieved to talk about something corporeal in a real world, rather than having to deal with some theological questions, which frankly his training has not prepared him for. And so he will say, "Oh, it was the original Roman watchtower that was built here. It was ruined generations before the Romans left, and they built it on that hill fort because you can see it for miles."
It's impressive.
Now, my lord's brother lives there.
The Jarl's brother.
Aha. What's his name?
And it's as though Humlocutus goes to say, "Yes, yes, Eric, lady, Eric lives there."
Who's that? Why is he living there all by himself?
Kaya will step in and say, my brother-in-law is eccentric.
I look at our loon.
And she might well flicker her eyes towards Callum as she says it.
And tell me, is Eric a man of God or a man of the old gods?
Eric is not a Christian, but quite what Eric believes, says Kaya, is difficult to determine.
And what did the Jarl make of his brother? And what did the brother make of the Jarl?
My husband loves his brother and ensures that he does not starve.
Well, Callum, you seem to think the tower is...
there is some,
I've learned to trust your gut.
There is some source of power there. And does Eric return the love to his brother, or does he not, priest?
I think that Father Humlucatus will say something like, the poor man makes little sense these days.
Sounds like my kind of man.
Guess we have
him visit.
Yes.
Yeah?
Apparently so. Do you think
Okay.
I need a better weapon for that? In case we see any more demons.
Well, I have always thought it was strange that you carry just a dagger.
Yes. And I look
But,
at Kaya if she has anything. Like, I came thinking I need, like, ecological help here. I didn't expect to need much in the way of weapons.
Well, the power of God doesn't require a weapon, does it? You know, if you are wielding a weapon of God, then any weapon is incredibly potent. So I think at that point we'll cut to you climbing up the side of the hill, the hill fort as was, and it is ridged and mounded as you clamber up the side of this, clearly artificial. And at the top is a ruined round tower. The round tower is probably about 20 feet across at the base. It's standing on a granite slab, a natural granite slab at the top of this hill. And the top of it is broken off, so it has a bit of a look of a broken tooth, really, because this is centuries old. This was a century old when the Romans left, at least. And the entryway was on the first floor, so there is an external set of stone steps going up to a gap in the wall about 15 feet off the ground. And you can see, if you look up through that, you can see there is no roof. There are some ancient wooden rafters or joists just about clinging on up there, but that's all. So what do you do? And who does it first?
Call Eric. What's his name, right?
I don't think you'll get a response.
Blackburn will look about him.
Okay,
so
tell us about the move and then roll the dice.
Cool. So this is a basic move. This is look about you, and I will look around the scene and consider the risks and opportunities available to me. I am hoping to get at least one hold to ask about what is my best way in or out. But we'll see. Oh, that is a 5, and I believe I only have a 6. I have a +1 in sense, so that is a 6. So that is another failure, unless perhaps one of my companions is going to help me look around, and I could convert that into a 7.
I think Callum is definitely helping you. He's scrambling about,
capering around.
Yes, beneath your the imposing figure of Blackwing. He's almost crouching.
Okay, then roll to help, which is when you help or hinder a PC, roll plus subtle for social, steal for any other. I think this is probably steal. This is about your concentration, really, I think.
Mm-hmm. In which case, I actually have 0. Yeah, okay. So that's a 9. So,
well, that's a step up, which means that you add 1 by pointing at things, I think, and saying, look at that, look at that.
mm-hmm.
Which in normal circumstances is very confusing, but this occasion appears to help Blackwing. I think there's no question. The only way in, short of climbing to the top and lower yourself down, is up that set of stone steps and through that that old Roman arch, 15 feet off the ground, up there.
All right. Get behind me, monkey. And Iverius, hold the rear. Let's. I'll poke my head through the door and see what's going on.
Weapons up.
There's a stone. When you get to the top of this stair, there's a stone platform that also juts into the room, into the space. This was probably a stone platform with a wooden floor around it, but that wooden floor is long rotted and long gone. And you look up and you can see the sky with the occasional crossed bits of old rafter and joists still hanging on. But there is a similar set of stone steps going down as there is coming up on the outside into what was probably once the cellar of this tower, but the floor that separated from the rest of it is long gone. Is that a good enough description of what you see? Or have you got a question?
So to clarify, it's a complete ruin, as in that there are steps down to a lower level, but that lower level is no longer have a ceiling above it. Is that correct?
Exactly so.
Okay.
It's just it's a cylinder, the guts of which has just been lost.
Right. And there are no stairs above us or anything. It's simply just a cylinder straight up with a space below.
The assumption would be that the stairs going up were probably wooden.
Yeah.
Is there a person there?
Ivurius calls up to you. Do you look down into the slightly dim depths?
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, Callum probably pushes past me and yeah.
Have a look.
You can see Callum against one side of the base of the cellar level, what looks like an old piece of sailcloth propped up to create some shelter from the rain because there's no roof. And the rest of the floor is to a large extent just a jumble of debris, some fallen stones that have not been salvaged, and rotting wood it's a mess down there apart from this bit of sailcloth which has been propped up to create some shelter.
Blackwing will see Callum's gaze fixed upon that, and he will go across and prod open the sailcloth to try and view what lies beneath it.
So just so I'm clear, he's going down into the cellar level.
Yeah, all of us. I think
I think me too. Yeah, Callum as well.
Yeah, I think Blackwing perhaps pulls Callum
backwards.
backwards.
We'll have to go down in single file because it's an old cellar. Yeah. So Blackwing, do you get ahead of Callum or does Callum scamper down?
Would Callum like to go first? Because I feel like Blackwing would try and protect you, but if you get too quick for me to catch you, then you're eager to look, right?
I think, and it's also not. It is still daylight. I think Callum will want to go ahead. Yeah. So, but not too far ahead. He's not really many meters in front of Blackwing, but yeah, I think he might be just a few steps ahead of Blackwing.
Yeah, that's what I've got in mind. Is he a couple of steps ahead? He goes down. Blackwing follows. Ivurius brings up the rear again, and there is still daylight. It's not it's not winter, so day length is quite long. And I think that we last time agreed you arrived mid to late morning. Perhaps a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours has passed, if that. So yeah, it's early mid-afternoon. So there's plenty of light. It's still that kind of dull, diffuse light, because you remember it was very misty when you arrived, and there's still that cap of mist over the top of Synhamm. But yeah, there's enough light to kind of see down there. And so you make your way down. What do you do when you get down there, Callum?
I think I just listen. He tries to. I think he just wants to look around, but also use his other senses. So he's listening closely, and specifically also looking at the sailcloth, see if there is a shadow or if there's a form behind the sailcloth.
There's no light beyond it, so you're not seeing a shadow, but you are hearing a human voice humming to itself.
I look back at Blackwing and I, as if saying, "Oh, do you listen to that? Do you hear that?"
And it's obvious once you are listening for it, and you just stop on the stairs and just listen as.
Where is that coming from?
Behind the sailcloth, or under this sailcloth shelter, for want of a better word.
Is there enough room for me to step up beside Callum, or is it still
in the base of this? The base of the tower on the outside is about 20 feet. Maybe
Okay.
the walls are 2.5 feet thick. So yeah, it's 15 feet across this level. 5 meters.
So I will look back at Iverius and nod towards his weapon, and then I will just rip back the sailcloth and stand back.
And what you see is about to load, I hope. There you are. If you go to Faces and Places, I do hope. There he is. That'll probably take a little while for you for it to load where you are, but you see the Yoel's brother.
They look similar.
I'm glad you noticed that. But that's who you see staring at. What do you want? What have you come here for? What do you come here for?
Yurik, your brother Widok lies sick.
There is a complete lack of comprehension. He just kind of stares at you. Sick.
Jarl.
Sick.
Yes.
Sick. Sick. And he starts stroking the floor. Sick. Sick.
Blackwing just looks at Callum.
I think Callum will approach.
Translate for us.
Eric. He observes Eric, and I think he also starts to hum on his own, as if in dialogue with him. But he also starts to do this this dance that he was doing during the exorcism, where he acts as if he's some kind of a bird. So he's humming and he's moving closer to Eric and he's looking at him. Says, "Tell us about the raven."
And at that point, a raven goes, "Ah, ah," and you look up, and there are 2 ravens perched on a ledge up there at the top of the tower. What do you do?
Because Eric
looks up as well.
Oh, okay.
And he rummages about and comes up with a husk of old bread, and he runs up the stone stair to them, towards them, and holds it up.
I think Callum will try to dash after him, and he tries to see this pattern of how this the Jarl's brother is connected to the Raven or the Raven Spirit or Jodin. It tries to see if there's something similar.
Yeah, okay. I was contemplating whether the fiction had advanced sufficiently, but I think you need to see a little bit more yet.
A little bit more. Okay. So he still dashes after him, and he's looking at him closely.
I follow him too, and stand next to him while he's offering, looking like very early at what's going on.
And he holds this husk of bread up, and one of the ravens comes down and just picks it up and flies up, and the two ravens begin to share it, tearing it apart. Bits of the bread cascade down into the basement, and Eric bustles past you back down into the basement and starts picking up the bits of bread and eating it.
Food for gods.
More like I pick up some bread and try to offer it to the ravens as well.
Okay.
I'll try to catch one.
I think probably they won't take any interest in you. But to be honest, they've got quite a decent hunk of bread up there on the rocky top of this tower now. So I think you holding up a bit of the stuff that they've dropped is. I'm not sure I want you to read a huge amount into that unless you really want to.
You could always throw a rock at them.
Ravens are scary.
And they will scatter, and what's left of the hunk of bread will fall down into the tower.
Yeah, I didn't say that I threw a rock at them. I was just saying Vesuvius.
Oh, he suggested an idea, but I think ravens are super scary, so I probably wouldn't.
So I would like to maybe look at his meager possessions, I assume, behind there. Try and poke while he's sort of capering through the bread. Just have a look at what possessions he has.
And
he's sat in the middle of the floor now where it fell, just eating it, just a little bit, savoring it. While you examine his possessions, and you're right, they're very meager. They sit there on this black flint floor. The floor is, there are flint comes in kind of cobbles, and if you split it, the inside is this lovely shiny black. And the floor has these cobbles mortared into the floor, and so it's really quite attractive. The light plays on it, but his possessions are very meager indeed, very meager, to the point where you would describe it as rubbish.
I try to look at the bird and see if there's anything strange about it by using True Sight. My move. When you scrutinize a person, a creature, or an animal.
Yeah, because it does work on animals and creatures, doesn't it? It is a soul move, so you'll need to tell me. I think we decided last time you sacrificed fate, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now, am I right? Because as I look at your sheet, I think that means you have 1 point of fate left. Be aware.
No, I had 2. I already dropped it.
Oh, I see. Fine. Okay. Yeah. Right. When fate reaches 0, I will begin to make your doom happen. But you can earn fate points back by acting on your doom yourself. Yeah? So, fine. True Sight, when you scrutinize a person, creature, animal in a scene, roll plus soul. Let's see what you get.
3. I keep getting overwhelmed.
You must be close to getting 5 experience.
Actually, I'm at 4. Yeah.
Well, one more effort to do anything at all, and Avurius will have an advancement. So, okay, what I am going to tell you then is that the ravens stare back. And you get the distinct impression that actually they're the ones scrutinizing you. I think we cut from Avurius on the platform being scrutinized by ravens. What are the two of you doing down I think I still have Callum kind of dancing about a bit while Eric ignores him and nibbles at the bread that they dropped. Blackwin has been through his possessions and found that it is rubbish. What else do you want to do, if anything? Or does that where this scene ends?
Blackwin is just sighing in disgust and stares at Callum and the other lunatic, and then we'll just stalk up the stairs to see what happened to Avarius. And so, leaving Callum to negotiate the rest of the scene on his own.
So, Callum, what do you want to do down there in the cellar before I cut to a brief exchange of glances between two ravens, Blackwin and Avarius?
Does Callum have a sense of whether the appearance of these ravens matches his premonition? Does he have the feeling that this is actually when something is happening is going to happen very soon now, or he doesn't? He has no sense of that.
The nature of his premonition was that the next significant event would be when the ravens circled the tower, and right now you have two ravens perched on the tower. I think it's a stretch to say that they're circling it.
Okay. Well, Callum he wants to show off and even share some of his new possessions. So I think he starts to rattle the rattle bone of Aelnoth, and he shows it to Eric, and he starts humming his own song, and he wants to see if he's impressed by it.
And it certainly gets his attention, and he kind of, and then you shake the rattle, and he looks at you, and it's almost as though there is a flash of lucidity across his face, and he says, "The king's coming, you know. He is. I can feel him coming."
King Bida.
And then he
doesn't say, okay. And I shout to the others, "The king is coming!" as they're going up the stairs.
At which point, I will just throw my, what was it, dagger? A knife at those stupid.
I think there are less valuable things to disturb two ravens with.
I'm trying to stab them.
I mean, they're kind of 20 feet up.
Too far for me to try knife at them.
Well, that sea axe is a pretty substantial. It's almost a short sword. It's it's about the blade's kind of this big. So it's a substantial weapon. It's not a throwing knife.
I think he just wants to have no weapons at all.
The chance of hitting them is small.
You just want to have no weapons at all, don't you?
So fine, then I'll throw a rock at them. I'll throw something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. They scatter up into the sky and disappear off towards some woodland a little way away.
But they don't circle the tower. Interest.
No. I think we'll draw that scene to a close. Where do you want the next scene to happen?
Does the other settlement, the kings, is that on the King Widdock? The people who are coming supposedly to take over once the Jarl dies.
King Bida of Lindsay.
King Bida, sorry.
Yes. Linden is about 5 days away.
Right.
But I think what I will say is that as you are coming out from the tower, contemplating, if you look at the map again, you'll see that there is a trail coming in from the northwest, just about where you are on that hill fort, but on the other side of the map. And you see 3 mounted men trotting into towards Synhamm. And they'll trot down into the village. And I think if I think about where you are and the height you are, you will see that some of the Saxons will take the horses and they'll go into the hall.
Well, I have no great inspiration, no God-given visions, and no quiet messages from the world around me. But perhaps we should head back to the village and see what those 3 are about.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Just as the last effort in this in the Roman Hill, I think Callum would also like to see if there is if there are more ravens in the sky, or if you can sense a nest of ravens or a lot of bird activity in this place, just as they were leaving, as we're leaving, heading back.
Well, no, I'll tell you now for certain that can you see in the map, if you go kind of south from the tower you've just been up, you'll see a ruin, and beyond that you'll see quite a dense copse of woodland.
Mm-hmm.
That copse of woodland is alive with ravens.
I see. Just on the east, on the right side of the map. Okay.
Yeah. So, do you want me to cut to the Great Hall, or do you want to go somewhere else?
I think there's only one way to protect her. I tell Blackwing. We need to take her out of here, and you're muted.
Whether Lady Caldera wants to leave her home and her husband, I mean, you may be right, but the lady doesn't strike me as one for running.
Me neither, but I don't think her husband will be alive for much longer. So she is the one I need to protect.
So I'm going to cut to the Great Hall, where Harmer, the door warden, is used to your coming and going now. You're a guest of the lady, and so you can get into the hall. You can hear conversation in the partitioned room at the back where Widdock is to be found. You can hear the voice of Kaya Delvia and somebody else, a low voice, talking. In the hall is the priest, Father Humlocutus. What do you want to do?
March straight there. Well, I am marching straight to this conversation.
So pull the curtain aside and go into Widdock's private room.
Mm-hmm.
What about the other two? Do you follow him or not?
I stay with the priest and I see how he's behaving.
Blackwin, do you stay or do you go?
I will stay. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth again with in holy matters.
So if Urius goes through the curtain and you find that Kaya Delvia is in conversation with a younger man, and he said, "But mother, he's coming." What do you do?
Can I assume that that's their son?
Yeah.
Who's coming? I've just burst into the conversation.
He looks at you. He's never seen you before. He's and mother, who's this? He's in the character keeper now, and he's blind in one eye. It's white, and he peers at you with the other one beadily. And he says, "Mother, who's this?" And she says, "Oh, this is one of the people that I told you about, Sabbat. They say they could help your father, but I'm confused." It must be said that Sabbat doesn't look like the brightest tool in the box. He's a big, burly bloke, and clearly has some scars from battle. But what do you mean confused, mother? He doesn't seem to have much to offer to that conversation. What do you do, Vurius?
I look at her, is he the heir?
Sorry, you broke up a bit then. Say that again.
Is he the heir? The next in line.
And she looks at you and raises an eyebrow and says, "Yes."
I look at him, where did you lose an eye?
Beda took it from me.
You follow the word of God?
He spits.
I'm here to protect your mother, nothing else.
She doesn't need you to protect her. I will protect my mother.
I will appreciate the help.
The sense you get is this is a man with a propensity to sudden and intense violence.
I will look at her
I'm
and...
not sure you knew that.
I assume so. I look at her and tell her, like, if I can talk to you in private later, and I will leave them alone.
And she will say, Sabbath, you've travelled from the edge of Linden. Go rest, take some ale at Mineda's, and then come back and we will speak again. And it's very clear to you, Avurius, that she is she has no particular confidence he's going to add a lot to this conversation.
Yeah, I assume he would add blood, personally. But sure.
So let's have a little scene between you and Caerdelvia. She has calmed down. She is still clearly concerned about Widdock, who still lies in the bed. He is still delirious and ill, and the cross on his forehead is no better than it was. So what do you want to talk to Caerdelvia about, Avurius?
Kaya, I've been sent to protect you. I don't know what to do about your husband. I'm not sure God has any reason for me to protect him, especially with that son.
The sad circumstance, Brother Avurius, is that I am tied to this place. I have lived here for 30 years. I cannot go back to my old life. And if I were to abandon Synhamm to Beda, then the people outside would be slaves or dead. That is not an option for me, Avurius. I must find a way to make my husband well enough to call his spears, so that when Beda comes, he knows he will not just take this place, he will have to spill blood for it.
Can his son call the spears?
Say it again?
Can his son call the spears?
This is difficult for her, but I think that she is a realist and increasingly concerned. My son has been on the road to Linden and tells me that Beda has called his warband, and they will make less rapid progress than Sabbath did. But Sabbath believes he's already on the road. And my son, while a fine warrior, does not command the respect of my husband's people. They will not stand with Sabbath. They would come if Widdock called. I need him to be well, Avurius, or we are doomed.
I understand. Well, I'm sticking around you. As I go back to them.
So, meanwhile, outside we have Father Humlocutus, Callum, and Blackwin. What does that say? Or is it? Are you just waiting, or is there some content to that scene?
I would like to ask the father what was the Jarl's relationship with the pagans. You know, he seems to be a fairly tolerant Jarl, a lord, and he's built a church, but he also has a Saxon shaman. Like, what do the people, like both groups of people of the town actually think of the Jarl?
The Humlocutus says they think that he is a good lord. His father was a hard man, And so the people here feared him, in part for what he did when he took power. But then Widuc, my lord, brought Caerdelvia with him from a raid, and she has been the guiding hand of God on Widuc. So when his father died 20 years ago, he allowed a priest to come here. And then when that priest died, the Lady Caerdelvia was allowed to build a church and to summon me from the west.
And this enemy who comes, I heard tell that the Saxons won't be treated quite so nicely under him. Or did I get that the wrong way around?
Yeah, Beda is an Anglo-Saxon king of the small kingdom of Lindsey, and is a hard man. He holds court at Linden, and he became king when he took Linden back from a Celt revolt 15 years ago. And he does not trust us and will not have free Celts. If he comes to Synhamm, then I will be sold like every other Celt in the village. And the Saxons who live here, they will bend the knee. They will have no choice.
Whatever evil is at work here, Beda seems to be the only one who stands to gain. And yet, I don't think this is his work.
That is probably true, he says. I think that I wonder if Beda has cast some spell upon the all.
Can you think of anyone in Sinna that doesn't like the Jarl's rule?
Or may simply wish for Beda.
Genuinely, no one sees the change of regime to Beda as a good thing. When a lord dies, then even if you have held position under him, you cannot guarantee that the new lord will feel the same. And so there is at least uncertainty for every Anglo-Saxon in Synhamm. And for many of them, they will be replaced. Their lands will be taken and given to men that Beda trusts or owes. Kings stay kings because they take things and buy loyalty.
We also paid a visit to the Lord's brother, Eric. Was he always like this?
Eric has been, and he looks about as if, in the village they call him Mad Eric. In the village they say that because of what their father did, the male line is weak. They look at Sabbat, who is a powerful warrior, but is not the makings of a new lord. They look at Eric, who has always been odd, but in recent months has become lost. They look at the Jarl, who has been sickly for years, but now is near death. They look at Eric's son, Gulfrith. His wife and children died last year. It is a line that appears cursed.
What did his father do?
Let us take a walk. At which point, I think probably that's about when Iverius comes out, leaving Caerdelvia and to pray beside her husband's bed. It is clear that Father Humlocutus is is not really very comfortable talking about this sort of thing here.
Perhaps we can go to your place of, I don't know, church? I don't know what they would be at this point, but yes.
Now, church,
Yeah.
the Church of All Saints, as it was christened by Caerdelvia.
Might be a bit dangerous for me outside.
Say again?
It might be a bit dangerous for me outside.
I mean, I think that as long as you walk briskly through the Saxon end of the village and don't look for trouble, you might be okay. You know, if in doubt, don't insult people's god.
Come along, Ivorius. Let's hop.
What would a religious Catholic do if not insult other people's gods? Come on.
Yeah, that's fair point. Yeah. Popes are going to do that for another 1400 years. Let's then cut to the Church of All Saints. It's a simple building. I think I might have described it in the first session. It's just it's a stone building, simple stone building with a thatched roof and a tower with a bell in it. And he does feel much more comfortable there. And he tells you that the self-styled Prince Ciarl, Widoc's father, came here to serve a Romano-British ruler, came from over the sea, and at some point, it appears, decided that he was sick of serving the ruler and wanted to be the ruler. And so there was what amounted to a coup. Ciarl rounded up all the members of the previous lord's family, and at this point, Humlocutus is kind of very, and herded them into the old church, closed up the doors, and burned them all.
Evil.
And so it's not something that we talk about much, but people in the village say that God marked Ciarl's line and has ensured that the male line does not run strong. But please don't say I said it.
Where is this church? Is it the ruins to the east?
It is the ruins that you could see from the top of the old hill fort. It's the original Romano-British church.
And Wilfred. We met the Jarl's son, but what of his nephew? What afflicts him?
Oh, so he'll run through the line. So old Prince Ciarl caused this. Widoc has always been a bit sickly and is now at death's door. Eric is mad. Eric's eldest son, Hearfrith, isn't here very much, but between you and me, he's a cheat and a thief. Gulfrith is the one who lost his family. Freelaf went off to seek his fortune 15 years ago and hasn't been seen since. Widoc and Caerdelvia have 3 children. Sabet, you've met. And then he has 2 daughters, Wulfwyn and Wulflade. Wulfwyn went off to marry a Jarl in Kent in the south. And Wulflade was betrothed to King Beda in an effort to put an end to the blood feud. And she's not been heard of since. So the line of Prince Ciarl has been at least unlucky.
Very unlucky.
Sounds cursed to me. I guess that's what happens when you burn people in a church.
In my experience,
Humlocutus might believe that, yes.
In my experience, dark deeds linger to dark places. Maybe we should pay a visit to the church.
I
Certainly, maybe more fruitful than sitting around here.
What I'm going to suggest before we see that scene, I'm going to suggest a short break because we've been going 90 minutes. We've got 90 minutes more to go. Shall we say a decent chance to stretch? It's half past the hour now. Shall we say we'll be back in our seats at 22?
Sounds good.
See you then. Okay.
I feel like it's a very tough threat to get to grips with, you know, 'cause it's very nebulous. And now our idea that that was a demon, where we finished the last session, is, oh, now maybe it was, you know, the old god's manifestation, and so we're maybe no closer to.
It might have been his faith.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The priest exercised the faith out of a pagan.
But it provided a nice, neat session 1 climax, I think. So that was quite cool.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of Norse mythology stuff in this session.
It has occurred to me that I was so keen to get on with the game that I didn't mention safety tools. I'm just going to do it now. You are familiar with them because I mentioned them last time. But we will be playing with lines and veils, lines around graphic violence against children and sexual violence, lines around sex, and the X card will be in play. So make the X. I won't ask you why you've made it, but I'll ask you where you want me to rewind to, and I'll take it back to there, take a different route. So my apologies for not putting that at the beginning. I was just so keen to get back to Synhamm. So, I think we got to a place where you were beginning to kind of see there was more to this than you might have initially thought. So what do you want to do next?
I think we agreed that we would visit the ruins of the church, because this curse is possibly the only explanation we have to explain the events in the village so far.
But actually, I wasn't sure, because I don't know if we should leave Kaya alone again.
Interesting question. I mean, she is in the middle of a village that loves her lord, or at least respects her lord, and maybe even loves her. So I think your judgment would be that okay, if a war band turns up, then all hell will break loose. But I think you can assume you'll have some warning of that, because there is, there's plenty of land between here and Linden, a lot of which belongs to Widdock. So you would expect to see at least some refugees running in front of the war band if it's en route.
Mm-hmm.
Go on.
Before we do leave, I will tell her to try and raise the spears herself. Maybe the people will come to protect.
I think that's going to be very tricky, because she's a woman, albeit a respected woman. It is quite tricky for her to blow the great horn and have them come. So I think you say that, and she kind of nods, knowing that that's not an option for her, really. And instead, we'll cut to you approaching the ruined church, and it's bigger than the one that's been built since, and it has some of those hallmarks of having been built by giants. What's left of it are large blocks of well-cut stone, neatly put together where it still stands, and a variety of carvings still visible, though some of the stone has been cracked and weathered. So this was clearly a much grander building than the church in the village now. So having said that, over to you.
Well, Callum, perhaps we should investigate these ruins.
Well, I'm keen to see this gathering of ravens here. So I think Callum still looks about the same way as in the previous ruined tower.
When you say, because there are two moves, there is investigate and there is look about you. So my advice is skim the questions associated with them and then tell me which move you want to activate, because I'll let you wander around here, all three of you, looking for what's interesting.
So I have a tendency to try and drop the move into what I'm saying. So when I said investigate, I was thinking Callum's got a +2. I don't want to fail again, basically. I'm tired of failing at rolls. So I wanted someone with more sense than me to give it a go
and
first.
then you might be able to help if necessary. Yeah. Okay. Or in fact, and it's impossible not to think about the mechanics. So that's fine. We don't ruin the fiction by it, but I know you're thinking of it. So, Callum, do you want to investigate the church?
Yes. Okay. I have +2. Let's see. So Callum looks around. Oh, 11 +2. That's a 12. Yeah.
Now that's just as well it was you and not Blackwin, isn't it? Okay, so when you investigate a scene, roll +sense on 10 plus hold 2. So you have 2 holds to spend on questions in that move. You don't have to spend them both straight away, but do you want to spend one of them now to ask me one of those questions?
So basically, investigating the blackened church grounds, correct? Or are we? I think that's where we're focusing.
You're wandering. My picture is that we see you wandering around the ruins. None of the stones are more than probably chest high. The walls are long gone. Piles of old stone around the place. Roof long gone. But there are carvings on the stones. There might be the remains of the altar where weather has just split it. So it's a complete ruin, overgrown with moss. There's shrubbery in there. So you're looking around. Do you want to spend a hold on the question?
I think I will spend one. What, if anything, is being concealed here?
That's never a bad idea, is it?
So his eyes are wide.
Yes. Now you're Romano-British, aren't you, Evurius? So you will have us, and you're also trained by the church. So when Callum points out a quite complete inscription, I think that you'd be able to translate it. And the bones of the translation are, this is carved in Roman lettering near it seems to be behind the altar, and that would suggest it's a place of some honor. In fact, let's make it the back of the altar. That's nice. And there is chiseled into this block, it says, in honor of Marcus Didius Gallus, legate of the 10th Legion, who saved his people and those they ruled from the king in Flint. That is what is being concealed here.
Does I'm assuming that Evurius reads that out to us as the king in Flint.
He's educated, but he still has to follow the letters with his fingers.
Yeah.
This is 610 AD.
And it's old, right? It's weathered. It's the king in Flint, though. Perhaps Eric mentioned a king coming. Perhaps a different king than the one we thought of.
And I have to say, I think that Ethelred, when he first went to examine Widdock, he heard him say, the king is coming.
Ah, right.
What I can't remember is if he shared that very publicly, but let's assume he did.
I think that got caught up in, failing to heal him immediately afterwards. The cascade of failures.
I think it was the consequences of failure that kicked in then, rather than the details of that. But suddenly now it seems more relevant.
The king in Flint, but could that also be the Jarl's father who destroyed these people? Or is it someone else? The king in Flint. King in Flint.
There isn't a discern realities type move, is there? or spout law kind of move?
There isn't particularly. There is in Look About You. Add a detail to the scene that changes or enriches the fiction, or ask the GM to do so.
Can I try to look about me then, as I look about my my memories of lore and?
You certainly can. Go ahead.
Is a 9.
Well, now were somebody able to nudge that over with some help? I think that this is steel. I don't think this is a social. This is a different kind of helping. So, if somebody would like to roll plus steel to see if they can nudge your thinking,
I could help.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know in what, but sure, I'll help.
Yeah, you know, we're talking with each other. Maybe you say some sort of detail that sparks my memory about things.
exactly.
So
Steel, 11.
great.
You're finally being into rock, guys. Okay, so you're on 10 plus. You add plus one. I assume you want to add plus one, so that becomes 10. Yeah. So you hold 3 for Look About You.
So I would ask, so it's the scene that we're in. Is that correct? Because I can't just ask what's the biggest threat and then get, oh, the monster is over here in the Gawain Common, right? No. But I would ask, I believe I would spend 1 hold to add a detail to the scene that changes and enriches the fiction. And I would ask the GM to do so instead and to tell me about the King in Flint.
Okay. It's almost a regional myth around a king in Flint. And the story goes that not long after the Romans came to Britannia, the Celts rose up and burned their cities and routed their legions. And the story, and this story is told in a number of different places. And the way it usually unrolls is that a priest of the old gods, a druid, as they're sometimes described, came to the settlement and there raised a spirit of great power to crush the Romans, to support the revolt, the Celtic revolt. And the way the story goes is that the creature began to attack not just Romans, but Celts. And it was only when a Roman helped the druid that they could contain the creature and lock it away. And that creature is in legend called the King in Flint. And it goes slightly further than that in some places. It says that the Roman and the druid locked the creature away and made keys to keep it locked away. So there's a bit of detail for you.
That's great detail. So my hold will, unlike so Vasilis has hold left over from his investigate, correct? And I have hold left over from my Look About You, but they can only be spent in this scene. Is that right?
Your Look About You can only be used in this scene because it is Look About the scene.
Yes.
His investigate, he can hang on to it, and something else might trigger him to say, "Oh, when we investigated the church, ...
Right.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, I would like to spend 1 more of my hold to ask what is most vulnerable to me, and I would say that what is most vulnerable to me is more asking about, what is open to me to investigate. Like, is there any, because there's no mechanic for, say, looking for clues. Kind of say, is there anything in this scene?
There is the question: what could I use to?
Oh, well, yes. Yeah, that's a perfect.
And there's the other one that's a bit like that is, what's the best way to protect ... Depending on quite what you're looking for.
I suppose what I'm looking for essentially the way of phrasing it would be, what could I use to, investigate this king in flint further in the area? Is there anything here beyond the marking?
I mean, given that you've come across this myth, this legend in a number of different places, and they're all slightly different, these tales, what I've given you is the kind of the complete one. A bit of it's here, a bit of it's there. I suppose you could ask people in the village whether there are any local legends about this. Yeah. So that leaves you with one hold, and that leaves Callum with one hold on his investigate. I will forget about these if you don't remember them.
Can I? It's just so like the Roman soldier isn't buried here, is he? It's a marking dedicated to him in the church. Is there an old cemetery at the back or anything like that?
If you look at the map, you might see. Can you see that near the ruined church there are 4 contoured mounds?
Mm. Okay.
They're about 50-60 feet on their longest axis and probably 40-50 feet on their short axis.
Yeah.
And I think it's fairly common knowledge that the Celts buried their kings in mounds.
Right. So possibly the priest. So I will ask, actually. I'll spend my last hold to ask, are there any dangers we haven't noticed? Because I feel like moving on to the mounds is perhaps a different scene rather than being in the church.
Right. I'm not sure that there's an immediate danger in this scene.
Cool.
Do you want to do anything with that investigate hold, Callum, or do you want to keep hold of it?
I think he's still. He will remember it later in a bright moment, in a flash of his eyes. He's gonna remember something. So.
Because for what it's worth, I think that there are now a number of additional pieces of data, of information for him. I think the fiction has advanced sufficiently far for him to be able to try to see patterns again when he's ready. But in the meantime, anything else in the church, or do we bring that scene to a close and the scene focus move somewhere else?
I think I'll use the prayer move here, the divine guidance.
Okay.
Just to have the hold on the side in case we need it.
Okay. So once per session, when you pray for guidance, roll per soul, bang, go for it.
Yeah. Basically, I'm trying to pray at this broken church, try to bring a little bit of faith into it, you could say.
Yeah, no, that works for me.
10.
So you hold 3. Spend holds at any point in the session to have a useful object ready, be somewhere you were needed just in time, gain advantage which you can pass on to another PC, or retroactively warn someone about an attack that they might otherwise be surprised by. Yeah. So keep those in your back pocket. Remember them, because I won't.
Yeah.
And then where do you go?
If the legends of the King in Flint are true, then the mounds to the south of the church, they may hold, well, this priest, if not the Roman soldier himself. I say we check them out, see what lurks among the mounds.
And what does that checking out look like? Are you walking around them? What exactly are the 3 of you doing?
I mean, I would say that Blackwin is walking around them and inspecting the dirt of the mound and perhaps trying to. I mean, mounds are, typically speaking, they don't have any real kind of markings to indicate who would be beneath them, correct? But it's the size of them, I believe.
That would be true in normal circumstances. But on the northern edge of the one that is furthest from the church, when you walk round it, one edge, instead of just sloping, because they'll have weathered over the centuries, but instead of being a nice smooth mound in cross section, it kind of does that. What do you do?
You go and check that thing up, Mr.
And by scraping away some of the moss and lichen and soil that has accumulated there, you reveal a stone lintel. What do you do?
Can you remind me? A lintel is the top bit of a door, right?
It's the top of a door. But I mean, this is hip height or maybe a little chest height.
Mm. Well,
Any writings?
Now, isn't it interesting that you should ask that? As you examine it and you scrape away the moss and accretion of hundreds of years, there is very, very, very eroded carving. And they are the Roman letters MDG.
Marcus Didus. It's this Roman protector.
Marcus Didius Gallus.
And what is the church's opinion on disturbing the graves of?
I mean, let's be clear. These are not Christian burials.
Mm-hmm. Highly frowned upon, but yeah, not Christian burials. Couldn't care less.
Well then, I didn't bring a shovel, but perhaps we should try and see what lies beneath this lintel.
As you scrape down and clear some of the earth because if you imagine that once this was a reasonably flat surface, earth has filled this in over the years to the rest of the mound. So you can excavate that using your axe to just clear away a lot of that muck. And what is revealed is a solid stone slab. What do you do?
I would like to break it down, please.
Now, it's interesting you should say that.
Because is that a feat beyond human?
I think that it would be very difficult without a team of people and a horse or two to get this off. Now, you have a horse, but you also have you. And I'm not sure that that Evurius is going to harness up his horse like it was a cart horse.
Okay. I'm just so worried about something going badly wrong. The way that the dice rolls have been going mostly.
Well, first of all, you need to tell me whether you are going to power your soul move by cashing in some of your credit with the gods, i.e. mark fate, or you're going to take a bit of physical harm.
I think I will go for fate, even though perhaps harm would be more narratively suiting. I don't think it's suiting for the long-term use of the power. No,
remember, we live in a supernatural world where channeling the strength of Thunor, the Saxon god, is absolutely in keeping.
Yeah. So Blackwin. Well, let's roll the dice first and see how that goes. Oh, that's a 9.
And what's your soul?
My soul is 0.
Yeah, I thought so. So 9 is 9. This isn't something anyone else can help with because this is your soul move. This is your special thing. So on 7 to 9, you do it, but choose to either take another harm or accept disadvantage in this scene.
Well, I don't want to pay both types of price to activate my soul move, so I will take disadvantage on my next. Is that what it means? It's disadvantage my next rolls, correct? Rather than
no, in this scene.
Oh, in this scene. Okay.
Yeah. So everything you do in this scene, if you like, Thunor has helped you do it, but you have strained yourself.
Yeah.
Or you feel kind of I shouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with taking disadvantage in this scene. Yeah.
Fine. So, so describe to me how you do this, because when you clear it away, what you've got is a lintel, 2 solid uprights, and in the middle, a great slab of stone that's neatly mortared into the lintel and the uprights. So, how do you actually? What do we see in the movie? What do we see you doing?
I think both me and Iverius, strain against it fruitlessly for a while, and then we both take a step back. And Iverius, sort of steps back to look at it, and he's giving up. And then Blackwin sets down his axe, puts his shield on his back, looks once again at it, and then as he's looking at it, he just he starts to think, like he feels that anger that he's been feeling. It's always burning beneath it, just suddenly swells up within him, and he just knows that. This is another obstacle. This is standing in between him and moving onwards in his path. And he just goes straight towards it. And then we just heaves straight forward at it, throws himself entirely against it. And what was once completely sturdy and, didn't move at all, cracks with his first smash against it. And then he just throws himself bodily against it over and over again until it pushes through completely.
And Callum is observing this and he's giddy and he's almost cheering with his rattlebone.
But maybe that inspires some of the suspicions that you hold about Blackwin, right?
I'm just shocked.
And as he comes through, he's scratched and dirty and dusty, and he's just sort of shaking with the fury within him, basically.
Praise God! How did you do that?
Yeah, and you just get a harrowed stare looking back at you.
No man should be able to do that, Blackwin.
And that is what it feels like. That that was because it was solid, and in fact, when you begin to pull the bits of this slab out, it's kind of 4 or 5 inches thick, and so you clear that away, and you can see that there's a mortared stone tunnel running. I mean, it's probably only waist high, and probably wide enough for someone to crawl down. What do you do?
Are you up for some crawling after breaking this giant rock?
I think he's not at the point of speaking at the moment. He'll just stare at you and then just quickly move down the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Callum, you're next. I'm last.
To be honest, if you think that the entire mound is probably no more than 40, 50 feet long. So to get to the center of it, it's only 15 or 20 feet. Now, given he has to crawl along it, by the time he gets to the middle of the mound, there's just about room for somebody else to lie down in the tunnel. So what I'm going to suggest is that you will have a candle a tallow candle of some description with you, and so Blackwin elbows his way down this low tunnel. He can't stand. He might be able to get up on all fours with a bit of luck, with this moving this candle ahead of it, and there is the gleam of bone. What do you do?
He will reach forward carefully and sift through the bone, trying to see if there's any other objects hidden within.
It is a human skeleton. There are maybe shreds of leather and other organic material, perhaps not very much, but there are a variety of bronze discs. There is a helmet. There is a sword. All the ironwork will be rusty and rotten and quite delicate. The bronze less so. But the thing that is most noticeable. Well, I tell you what. Why don't you investigate this scene, this location, rather than having me just witter on? So roll 3 dice. Take the bottom 2, and add sense.
That is a 7.
On a 7, hold 1.
1. Yeah.
What question do you want to ask from the investigate list about what you have found?
What, if anything, is being concealed here? As in, what, if anything, is being hidden within this burrow, this mound?
The thing that catches your eye is that resting among the ribs is a pendant, a round pendant that you might even believe to be gold. It is certainly the richest single item here. What do you do?
I will take it. I'll pick up the pendant, and I will, have a last sort of cast about the scraps and things there, and wonder about taking them, and then back up through the tunnel.
There's nothing else. The metalwork, the iron metalwork, is long rusted and rotted. Even the copper's quite verdigreed. Maybe a couple of the bronze discs might be of interest, but they're not as interesting as this pendant.
Yeah, I will back up and leave.
Hopefully, something from the dead won't come to bite us in the ass.
And you take it out into the light and kind of clean it off, and it's about so round, I guess, and clearly hung on a thong of some description at some point, but inscribed into it, kind of chiseled into it very finely, is what looks like a snake, but with a not snake head. It looks like the jaws of a cat with a lot of hair behind it.
Well, this was what our Roman friend was holding for us.
What is the creature?
What I'd like to do is could you roll plus steal, Blackwing?
Sure. Taking my disadvantage though.
Yep.
Oh, well, nice. That is a 10.
Well,
that's
there
11,
you go.
Actually, yeah.
Can't do worse than that, can you?
No.
Can't do better than that. When you pick it up, you see a flash of it feels like something like a dark mist, and you saw a flash of it and it's gone.
The mists.
Almost as though it was reaching for you.
Something
wicked this way
dark
comes.
surrounds us. Yes, something wicked this way comes by the pricking of my thumbs. Look out for any murderous Scots that are about to come over the horizon, I guess. Right. I will flick I will hold the medal, the item, and I will then toss it towards the holy warrior, and I will say, perhaps this is something for a man of God to hold, not a butcher.
There you go with Urius.
If only I had that magic move. I'll start looking at this thing, trying to understand if I know this creature that's marked on it.
You're muted, Helen.
What I'd like you to do first is to roll plus steal, if Urius, please.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
What was it? Sorry, I lost track. Ooh.
What is it?
3.
Mark experience. Your experience goes to 5. You can worry about what advancement you're interested in a minute, but you have a sudden absolute certainty, Urius, that you need to take this to Eric's tower. and that is how you protect Kaya Delvia.
Then I will immediately start doing it. Like, you guys will see me just start walking towards, like, not even telling you anything.
I think Callum goes after you. Can I try it? Because he's so eager to also hold the the.
Yeah, I kind of shove you away. This is more important than this.
Oh.
Now, what I'd like to do now then is Ivurius is heading to Eric's tower. Callum is going after him, being shooed away. Before we find out what Blackwind does, Ivurius, do you want to consider which advance you want to take? Now, if you have a look at the PDF of your playbook, you'll find that they're on the back of that. There's improvements.
Yeah.
You're not in the advanced improvements yet.
Yeah, I have no idea what to take that would fit for the next 45 minutes.
Well, you know.
Extra soul, I guess. I guess extra soul wouldn't hurt.
Then improve soul by 1. Return experience to 0 out of 5. And what does Blackwind do?
Blackwind will stare, will gaze piercingly at Ivurius, suspicious of the sudden movement, and then stalk after him and hand on his axe, because he knows a darkness is associated with that token, and maybe Ivurius isn't quite as pure as I hoped.
So let's cut to Eric's tower then. So Ivurius, you're at the bottom of the stairs, marching to Eric's. That's the sense I got. Tell me if I got that wrong. And you're just marching into Eric's tower, or is that not the case? What do you do when you get down into Eric's tower?
Do I sense and give it to Eric?
That's not you. You needed to take it to Eric's tower, and that would protect Kaya Delvia.
So once I reach the tower, basically, what do I feel? That I'm done?
You've not felt anything since that rush of absolute certainty.
Okay.
And you know that this is where that needs to be.
Yeah, I drop it on the floor. And tell the others, leave it here.
What do we make of that, Callum and Blackwind?
I don't see any pattern to your behavior, Ivurius.
Yeah, I think on the way, indeed, Callum has been. I think he's trying to connect the things like the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Church, and the tomb and the penchant with the events of the past day. So he's trying to connect the ravens, perhaps, with the king in Flint and the power of this penchant. He's trying to understand if there is a connection between, basically, if the penchant is luring us towards helping this creature, or if it's really a way to defeat it. So,
okay, well, let's see whether you can piece any of those into some kind of pattern, Callum. All right. So this is to see the pattern, roll plus sense. Go ahead.
Plus 2. It's 8. It's a 10.
So on a 10, hold 3, and you have a range of questions there. Is there one you want to ask me now, or do you want to keep hold of them?
You do also have 1 hold left over from investigate, right? So you could even ask what happened here, I think, perhaps to ask about the coin. I don't know.
In theory, it's that would be related to that location.
Okay.
But that there may be something that makes sense to do that after you've done this move, or before.
You could ask, what does the King in Flint want from this pendant? Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking pendant and King in Flint for this.
Or how does this event connect to the bigger picture, perhaps? It's,
yeah, let's go with the last one, because I'm not sure about how to exactly phrase the other one. So how does this, like this penchant luring us to the tower, how does this event connect with the King in Flint and the Jarl's illness?
sorry, muted, too excited. Do you remember that I described the floor of the basement level of the tower?
Yeah, it was flint. I thought of that earlier. Yeah, okay. So it flashes in Callum's head. The flint on the floor.
And the other thing that flashes into his head is, given that this is sitting on a granite base, why would you mortar flint into a cellar that has a perfectly solid flat granite floor underneath it? Natural flat granite slab. That seems odd.
Is the pension on the flint at the moment, or is it just on the ground?
Right next to the whole place. That's what I felt like.
I think he just dropped it on the floor, he says.
Yeah.
So it's sitting on the flint floor.
Oh, there.
You know, because there is lots of debris about, but yeah, it's sitting there in you know, there are these little kind of little concave dips where the flint just.
So is the flint?
Do you have another question you want to ask me with a hold, Callum?
I have two more. Okay.
Can you ask, what does the pendant want from the tower?
The tower. Yeah. Yeah. What does the pendant want from the tower? Yes, I think I will ask that. The second one. Maybe it doesn't want anything. I don't know.
I was going to say, because that's to infer that the pendant is conscious.
Yeah, it might not be the case.
So I think the answer to that question is, how can a pendant want anything?
I will point out
hang on, this is Callum's move.
No, I'm just saying, Callum, that coin, that pendant, you wanted to touch it earlier, right? It's on the floor now.
Yeah, I think when he goes out of his pattern of his trance with patterns, he will actually try to grab the pendant. Yeah.
He does have one more hold, remember?
Yeah, he has one more.
Okay,
yeah.
So he picks up the pendant. Would you roll plus steal, please?
Yes.
I will look at you and tell you, what are you doing? You said, leave it here.
11. Wow.
I mean, in fairness to Callum, he's not showing signs of taking it from the tower.
No, he just wants to
hold it.
Experience it. Yeah.
So on in 11, you pick it up. And as you pick it up, it's as though when you pick it up, you see a kind of strand of black amorphous mist coming up with it. And then that disappears.
Did you see that? I guess the others didn't, probably.
No.
So I guess.
But if you describe it, Blackwin will probably describe having felt something similar when he first picked it up.
Yeah. And now you've got hold from see the pattern and hold from investigate a mystery.
Yeah. I mean, if I could phrase, what does the king in Flint want? Well, I don't know. Maybe is this penchant? Yeah, I'm a bit afraid to ask another what does, and it goes to waste.
As long as you believe you're asking about something that can act, that is sufficiently conscious.
Okay, yeah. So what does the king in Flint want from the pendant? Let's say
freedom. You remember the story that Homlocutus told you about a legate of the Legion working with the druid to contain the creature that the druid summoned, called the King in Flint. And you might remember that they fashioned, or they were said to have locked away this creature. You think that somehow this pendant is either the lock or the key.
Indeed. The King in Flint is either trapped beneath our feet or within this pendant.
Is Eric here?
Eric is looking at you from behind his sailcloth.
The king. Is he coming?
The king is closer. The king is closer. The king is coming.
What does the king want from Kaya Delvia?
So confused.
The king wants.
And Blackwing will, grab Callum's wrist and hold out the coin, like not touching it, but holding out Callum's hand, like sort of thrusting it towards Eric and say, "Is this what the king wants?"
Does Callum open the palm of his hand to kind of show Eric what it is?
Sorry. Yes, he does. He does.
Then I think that would Callum, would you roll the basic move fight?
Mm-hmm.
Roll plus savage.
That is a 6.
Eric has launched himself at Callum, most surprisingly, and grabbed the pendant. Callum stumbles back. It wasn't Eric's intention to do him harm, so you take no harm, but you don't have the pendant. And mark experience. What do you do?
What's going on? I'm so confused.
And Eric is...
Are you the king?
Take it away from him.
Okay.
How do you take it away from Avirius?
By force?
Okay. I think then I need you... Are you attempting to do him harm?
Mostly just take it away from him. I don't care.
Okay,
I don't care if I do harm or not. Like I'm just.
Well, I suppose what I'm trying to work out is: are you aiming to hurt him and get it, or just get it?
Get it is the main.
Fine. Then I think that's face danger.
Okay.
So can you get it away from him? So face danger is roll plus steal.
Okay. Do I have? Wait, I have 3 holds from the divine guidance. I use that. Yeah, I'll get the advantage. I mean, why not? Seems important.
So you roll. So that's the first of those 3 used up. You roll 3 dice, take the top 2. Now, last time you rolled.
well, this time it's pretty good. It's very good, and +1, I think.
Yeah. So that's 13. So 10 plus. So on a 10 plus, you do what you set out to do, because Eric is so fascinated by it. You literally walk up to it and take it out of his hand. And he goes, no, oh, please give it back. Please give it back.
It's in my hands
please
again.
give it back. What do you do with it, Avirius?
Do I get the feeling again? Is anything happening?
No, I think that you are still convinced that your initial feeling that this is where it needed to be is right.
Yeah, I look at the other 2 and say, why am I taking this from him? This should stay here anyway.
What makes you think that the coin should stay here?
It's God's will.
God's will.
Yes.
Right.
I think as Callum stepped back from Eric's from Eric grabbing the necklace, he leans against the staircase and he has there's a flash in his eyes, and I think I want to spend the whole from investigate to see how we can hurt or banish the king in Flint. So there was one.
What can hurt it?
What can hurt? Yeah, what can hurt the king in Flint?
Before you ask me that question, you don't even know what the king in Flint is.
Okay, that's true.
You know, if you had encountered a monster
Right. Okay.
then it becomes a sensible question to ask.
Mm.
But you just think there's a monster.
Mm.
So could I ask
Callum, which question are you going to step back from using up that last investigate hold?
I was just wondering if anything
hang on,
has been concealed here.
Let Callum think it through.
Yeah, I think he wants to understand if basically the question is, what if anything is concealed specifically about the nature of the pendant, if it's the prison or if it's the key. I don't know if
Okay. I think that so far no one's really examined the pendant particularly carefully.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the thing on the front, but inscribed round the back is some Roman lettering. Now, you can't read it.
Evorius.
But Evorius might.
Yeah. I'm still holding it in my hand, like I don't see the writing. So it's like,
turn it around.
Yeah, because that's what Callum's realised is that on the back there's some words. Read the words, Evorius.
I'm confused because this is all weird.
Written on the back is keep this safe in Latin.
Unless someone stops me, I'm going to give it back to Eric.
Evorius is going to give it back to. Does anybody stop him?
Yeah, when I see that, I try to grab it myself. Just get in the way.
So, are you two now wrestling for the pendant?
I just hold it high. I'm weak for there.
And we all know that the only person who's taller than you here is Blackwin.
Yeah.
What does Blackwin do when he sees Evorius holding it away from Callum? And Callum, because we know that he's kind of small, because they wouldn't call him a monkey otherwise. He's kind of reaching for it. I should actually compare any of that with the descriptions you've given yourself. It's just occurred to me. No, we know that Evorius is a big bloke, fine, and we know from the fiction that so is Blackwin. So Blackwin, what are you going to do if anything?
Blackwin,
this is weird.
Yeah, Blackwin is going to say, Evorius, I think maybe Callum is more in sync with, in tune with what's going on here than you. Perhaps you should give the pendant to him.
He can't take it out of this place, though.
Why?
Because that is the way to protect her.
I worry that something other than God is speaking to you, Evorius.
And during that exchange, you can hear scrabbling behind you.
Uh-oh.
And Eric is clearing a space in the middle of the floor.
This pendant is the key, and someone called you here to free the king.
He's clearing the floor, and in the middle of where he's cleared, there's a halved flint, and the flint is never perfectly black. Often it has imperfections in it, and there is a particular imperfection in this that looks like a sinuous shape with something else at one end of it. I won't make you roll to see that it bears a striking resemblance to what is engraved on the front of the pendant. What do you do?
The front of the pendant is the
snaky thing with jaws and a ruff. I'm being obscure here. It's a lion-headed snake. It's just none of you know what a lion is.
Yeah.
We have to take the pendant. I think he will free. The pendant will unleash the king.
But something is already abroad in the land. Something has cursed the Jarl.
Yeah,
Perhaps our only hope is to bring it into the light so that we may slay it.
yeah, maybe.
I think I described to you earlier that the cobbles were all kind of just concave, and in many of them there are little, puddles of water have collected in these little concave shapes. And as you look at the bit, Eric is clearing more and more debris from the center. And most peculiarly, it's almost like the flint is beginning to do that and move from being concave to convex. You can see the reflection is changing. What do you do?
Like a snake.
Think of it more as if you imagine that that's what a cobble looks like when you look down on it. It's almost like the middle is rising towards you, bubbling up. What do you do?
I would like to look around me quickly and evaluate the situation.
I think, yeah, look about you and evaluate the scene for risks and opportunities.
Yes, so I've rolled a 10, no, 11 even on my look about me. So that gives me a
so
hold
you
3.
hold 3.
Yes, I would ask, what is the biggest threat?
You've never seen flint change its shape before.
Right. Are there any? No, are there any dangers? What could I use? No, what's the best way to protect Callum?
To protect Callum?
Yes. If this is this, I don't know. I suppose I've never seen this is happening before. I feel like we're under threat of something, right? But I feel like Everius is he's capable of dealing with whatever, and he got himself into this mess. But I'm worried about the weaker member of our party.
Then, if that flint floor is where the threat is, the logical answer to your question, how do I protect Callum, is get him off that floor and up those steps.
Right. Can I keep one of the hold for later, perhaps? Yeah.
You can.
So I will then say, just bark to everyone, off the floor, up the stairs now. Everius, take that damn coin.
What do you do?
He basically let me to get out of the tower.
So you want to take the pendant out of the tower?
I mean, how strong is that feeling that it must be?
It's as strong as it ever was.
Okay.
In order to protect Caerdelvia, that should be here. You have an absolutely crystal clear view that is the best way to protect Caerdelvia. What do you do?
And no sense will change my mind. I am religious after all. I'm like, you literally see me like, I'm just standing there confused about what to do. Like, should I put it down? Should I go up? Should I put it down? I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Should I give it to Eric and leave? What
Yeah, I'm just stuck, frozen.
Blackwin is already halfway up the stairs yelling at his companions to come up with him. And if Callum doesn't fight, he'll haul him up the stairs behind him, like pulling him up like the stairs.
What I think you will see from that, let's assume for the moment Everius has at least backed away, because I think he's still down there in the cellar. Blackwin is hustling Callum up the stairs. Eric is kind of pushing and throwing any debris to clear the floor. You can see very clearly now that that imperfection in the flint that he revealed. You can see it beginning to become much more distinct. It's almost now not an imperfection. It's almost as though it's glowing with this lion-headed snake. And from your vantage point now perhaps a meter or so above the ground, Blackwin and Callum, when you look down. I told you that the reflection of this flint was changing as it went from concave to convex. For all the world, it looks like now you can see something moving underneath it. What do you do?
I scream at Furious to get out. Like I'm just yelling at him as we go up the stairs.
Furious, what do you do?
Do I see this thing moving around underneath me, basically?
You don't quite have the same height that they have, but,
yeah, but
when you look down,
yeah.
you know, when Blackwin says, "Look, look," you look
reminds
down,
me of something.
and what does it remind you of, Furious?
It's some sort of what it's called, premonition or something. And Dark Water.
When you were praying,
Mm-hmm.
you found yourself standing on what looked like a frozen sea with ripples and reflections in it, with
Yes.
something dark moving underneath it. Is that not? Is it me, or have I misremembered that?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly true.
What do you do?
I want to ask questions, but I assume that putting the coin would release that thing. That also stop the disease striking our king.
Furious is clearly thinking hard about what to do. What does Callum and Blackwin do
I'm
from
not a
their
sensible
vantage point
person.
halfway up the stairs?
I think Callum will try to I think Blackwin is gripping him, but I think he wants to get away and again grab the pendant and run away, like run upstairs to Blackwin again, but with the pendant. So take it away from. I think you're muted.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
So you want to run down the 5, 6, 7 steps to Furious, grab the pendant, go back upstairs.
I think it seems like face danger.
Well, before you face danger, Callum is heading down the stairs. Blackwin, from your point of vantage, there are black, shiny tentacles beginning to emerge from the debris. Because remember, some of this debris is quite substantial. And while Eric has cleared perhaps 8 or 9 feet in the middle, clearly some stuff's going on at the edge of this floor that you're not noticing until now. And what you see are black, shiny tentacles emerging from the debris. And some of them are behind Furious. What do you do, Blackwin? You see that as Callum heads down the stairs.
Wow. Blackwin will protect someone. And the tentacle is reaching for Furious. He will perhaps... I don't know how the fate system works, but his fate is reckless. His doom even is to be reckless. So he's recklessly jumping off the top of the stairs to protect someone, and I get 10 plus without rolling for it, but I can't choose not to take harm.
Mechanically, the way that I think you are acting recklessly, so you could increase your fate from 2 to 3. You earn that fate back for being reckless. And you can spend fate if you're being just to improve a die roll. But so I mean, you're at the top of the halfway up the stairs, so you're 5 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Callum is between you and Furious on the stairs. Furious is at the bottom of the stairs with the debris behind him and this cleared space in front of him, which he seems to be fascinated with. And a tentacle is reaching from behind him as though to grasp his ankle. What do you do, Blackwin? Because Callum's in the way.
Given that I'm 5 feet above, I can't leap over Callum's head and like come down with my axe. I don't know if that's feasible.
You can't leap over his head, but you could just jump off the side of the staircase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jump off the side of the staircase.
And just roll up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking Wonder Woman sort of style jump, you know?
Oh, yes. Yeah, you have to do the land on one knee
yes.
with your... Yeah, absolutely. Now, is your objective to attack the tentacle or to protect Ivurius?
I think my objective is to protect Ivurius. But if I'm taking the protect someone role and I'm taking the 10+, I would also inflict harm as established on the enemy. So my role would be, I would be protecting him by coming down with my axe on the tentacle.
Fine. So your axe strikes the floor. There's sparks where the metal hits the flint. And in fact, it is as if the tentacle is made of a fluid flint. And you strike it. How much harm do you do?
2 harm with the axe.
Okay. And the tentacle shatters into fragments of flint. Callum, you were reaching down, you were going down the stairs behind slightly Ivurius. What do you do?
I think, now that I saw, Callum sees this tentacle and this mass of flint moving, I think he still wants to approach the Ivurius and the pendant, but I think he wants to approach in a inconspicuous way. So I think he's trying to act the fool, which is capering fool.
Yes. Oh, do act the capering fool.
So he start humming or trembling, or so he's pretending to be in a trance, or he's in a trance. We don't know if he's so when you act the fool to avoid something or someone's attention, I roll plus soul, and if let me roll that. So
I will not be hindering, because while I think Ivurius wants him to take it, I also don't think he doesn't want him to take it.
Well, I think the way this works is that if capering fool works, you don't kind of notice him as being important at all. So so tell us what happened with capering fool.
So I got 12. So basically, Callum goes in the background. You see, he's like a rambling madman, or he's doing. He's crawling on the floor as if he's looking at the tentacles. Oh, shiny! Or he's looking around him. So, but he gets close to. Yeah, he's close. So he's close to Ivurius, but he's not seen as a threat. Yeah.
I think the way that mechanically this works then is that he now has advantage to act against, inverted commas, Ivurius, because Ivurius is absolutely ignoring him. So what does he actually want to do?
I still want to get the pendant and run away.
Fine. I think that's face danger to act against opposition, but you roll with advantage because Ivurius doesn't see you coming, as he doesn't think that's what you're about. Okay?
All right.
If you fail, I'm going to put the pendant in the hole, just so you know.
By the way, Blackwood, more of those tentacles are emerging from the debris, and the ones in the space in the middle are beginning to emerge, and it's almost as though the flint bubbles up like that, and they go and begins to. But we'll come back to that. Callum, face danger.
Wow, that's a horrible roll. That is a 4.
Well, mark experience before we forget, and you reach for it, and I think what happens is that instead of picking it up, you nudge it out of his hand and it drops on the floor at his feet. What do you do now, Ivurius? Because suddenly this capering fool has just knocked it out of your hand as you were looking at it. What do you do?
Do I notice those tentacles?
Now you notice the tentacles.
I'm like, do I shake my head in understanding that I'm completely fooled?
I don't know. What do you do? Do you shake your head in the profound belief that this can't be happening because God simply wouldn't let it? You still have some holds on his servant, though, don't you?
Yeah, but there's nothing here that they can do anything. Useful object ready. Somewhere you're needed. retroactively warn someone.
Gain advantage, which can be passed to another PC.
Yeah.
So just bear that one in mind. That's all I'm saying. Don't forget about it.
Yeah.
So Blackwin, there is another one of these snaking towards you across the floor. You may have identified it as a threat, but I think it's identified you as a threat. What do you do?
I still have one from my look about you, right? And I would like to see what is most vulnerable to me here.
Take advantage.
I think you know that you can destroy these tentacles. What you're not certain about is whether you can keep up this game of whack-a-mole, because they are getting where they're coming out of this. They're now beginning to twine together into much thicker tentacles that are beginning to be the width of your thigh.
Right. Well, I know what my best way out is. It's up the stairs. Okay. So I think at this point, I'm going to try and stumble backwards up the stairs and, try and corral these guys to push up the stairs behind me, perhaps facing danger in terms of trying to block the tentacles from attacking them as they hopefully retreat.
Okay, so Callum is on the stairs. Eotenweard is in front of him with that pendant on the ground at his feet and tentacles beginning to weave about him. And you are in front of them both. They are between you and the stairs. Eotenweard, what are you going to do?
He can try to convince me to go up the stairs. It's also for PCs. So.
Okay, I could do that.
I
tell you what, I will. I'll turn around to you and I'll go. Holy man, you either get up those stairs or I'm gonna chop your goddamn head off.
When the pendant fell to the ground, did the tentacles react to that? Did they?
I think
shift the focus.
I think that the rate of tentacle eruption increased when it touched the floor. It just fell at his feet, just sitting on a bit of flint at his feet. Because he's not near the middle of the floor where that kind of symbol is.
I've rolled a 10 in terms of convincing someone.
I was going to give you advantage, but sure.
Yeah. So you get advantage on...
Hang on. I'm curious because Callum asked me a specific question. What is Callum thinking here?
He's thinking that the pendant is freeing the king, so he still wants to grab it. Yeah, that's what he's thinking. He has to get it away from the floor.
Okay, so he's going to grab it. Sorry, Blackwin, back to your point.
So just I've amongst all this pandemonium turned around and I've snarled spit and blood into Eotenweard's face and told him that he's either going to get up those stairs or I'm going to kill him, basically. I don't think that Blackwin has noticed the pendant because he had his back turned when it was all fighting. So he's just trying to get his companions out of the danger at this point. For PCs on 7+, they do what you. If they do what you ask, they mark experience. So Eotenweard, do you ignore the pendant and head up the stairs?
Yes.
Mark experience.
Sure.
On 10+, they get advantage doing it. I don't think it's particularly difficult, but it's sitting there. Blackwin, you follow him up. Callum, you've picked it up. Roll plus steal.
And take advantage.
Roll plus steal, yes. With advantage? Or
yeah.
Yes,
okay.
I'm giving you advantage.
Okay.
One more.
All right, that's an 11.
And wasn't that advantage important? When you pick it up from the floor, it's like the tentacles shriek. They want that to be where it was.
I run as fast as I can up the stairs. I try
and just before the other thing I'll point out to you is that imperfection in the flint in the middle of the floor, that is now positively glowing white. that flint. So I've got Ivurius almost being kind of pushed up the stairs by Blackwin. I've got the Callum with the pendant in hand. Blackwin and Ivurius will get to the platform at the top. The tentacles continue to be coming out of the ground, and they are beginning to reach up the side of the stairwell towards you. Callum, what do you do?
I run up the stairs.
And you are pursued by tentacles. You run down the stairs on the outside. Tentacles are now spilling out of that gate, that archway at the top. In my mind's eye, I see Blackwin hacking at them and shattering. Yeah. What are you going to do? You're on the ground outside the tower.
So are they erupting? Are they still? We can still see them from.
Yeah. Whatever's going on in that tower, and then you hear a kind of and a rending sound.
Oh.
Yeah, we kind of forgot.
And the top half of Eric arcs out of the top of the tower to crash to the ground 20 feet away. What do you do?
The king is here.
I think I made a mistake.
What do you do?
I look down at the axe. I look up at the monster that's clearly the size of a tower almost at this point, and
yeah. I mean, it is beginning to look like the top of the tower is now a writhing mass of tentacles, and you might even begin to see some of the stones at the top of the tower begin to crack and quake as if they were about to fall apart. What do you do?
I think I also give the pendant to Blackwin. Maybe you should.
if in doubt, pass the responsibility on. Okay.
Yeah. Blackwin will take it and glare at Ivurius, and then just
Blackwin will roll plus steal.
Yep. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yes, we know you did.
I think
that is a 7.
It's an appropriate full reaction. So.
Yeah.
You're muted, I think, Alan.
You're muted somehow, even though they're not muted.
Sorry, I'm far too excited. The king in Flint is in the world, and he is pleased with you. What do you do, Blackwin, with that piece of information?
With that piece of information, I spit on the ground, and I hold the pendant tightly in my hand, and then I turn and start running towards the village in the hopes that perhaps some of the Eotenweard family might be able to provide guidance, because it said that a druid, priest of the old gods, was what originally consigned the king of
the old Celtic gods, not the Anglo-Saxon gods.
And
I have to tell you,
village, right?
it's only 150 yards away, but at the rate at which this is erupting out of this hill, the solution is with you. It is the nature of heroism.
I see. I
still have a whole. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. If because I'm conflicted. I need to think this out.
Yeah, I think I still have one of my 3 holds from the earlier. See the pattern.
You do.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand. I mean, one of these questions: which one is closer to banishing or imprisoning? So is he completely free? Okay, if he's this how is disconnected? How does this event connect?
I didn't quite say he was completely free. I said the king is in the world, but there is more of him to come. It appears.
Yeah, well, I think he wants to understand how does this event connect to the bigger picture, in the sense if there are more keys, or does he?
I meant to tell you
the only key, or
as you look up at the tower, Callum, ravens are circling it.
Oh, see, it's happening. He's free. Well, he's in the world.
So, sorry, that was all apropos of you deciding how to spend your remaining hold. What do you do?
yeah, how does this event connect to the bigger picture? So he's still trying to be completely free. The question is, so is this pendant the only the single key to his freedom? Is that? I guess I'm making up my own question.
Okay, I think that the penny dropped, having the pendant in the tower has opened the gate. The only thing in that tower that is different is that single flint in the middle of the floor. That's the lock.
I would like to imagine that as we're standing in this pandemonium, and I feel like the pandemonium has been building constantly. Like this is the part in the movie where everything's screaming and jump cuts and it's all going horribly wrong, right? And I think Callum turns to Blackwin and clutches onto the front of his jerkin, and he's going like, "The flint is the lock, it is the lock, like to close the gate, the lock must be turned." And Blackwin will stare at him for a second and then push him aside and stalk back towards the tower, axe in hand, pendant clutched in the other. Just a run, basically, like running back inside.
I'm curious what the other two of you do before we describe this scene. Ivurius?
I will probably run after him, helping him get rid of tentacles.
Okay. So you're going to run interference on this. Callum?
Callum is following Blackwing, and he now thinks he's a raven. So he's jumping up and down, screaming, kind of screaming.
And I think what you've got is the way into this tower is you have to, because that archway is now full of roiling, spilling out tentacles, spilling down the stairs. And so I think that this is about Blackwing doing something past normal limits, because it's almost as though you have to leap from tentacle to tentacle to get up there and through.
Yeah.
So what I'm inclined to do is to have you roll your soul move, and I am happy for Ivurius to roll help on that. Yeah.
Can I also perhaps make the argument that I am fulfilling one of my doom or my fate, because I am seeking the justice of setting right what we put wrong?
I think that I will fly with that.
Yeah.
So roll your dice.
With advantage.
With advantage. Okay, so
it'll help.
So that's 5 plus soul is 5.
I'll help, I guess. Can I help enough?
You can only get me to 6.
No.
Both of them can help you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Why not?
Well, plus steel.
Plus steel.
Let's hope this ends well.
I leveled up.
11. So I'm giving +1.
So that gets.
I wonder if I'm
that gets you to 6.
I wonder if I help with steel or if I'm attracting the tentacles with my silliness. But I can still. I'll just roll steel. It's fine because it's.
Just before you do that, were you to trust your gut, you could then help with advantage.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think Callum is in the zone. So he's flailing about, and so I think I will do the trust my gut plus soul. Okay, +1.
Let me just check. If Urius has got no more advantages, God's blessings to hand about, is he?
So,
what did you get, Callum?
So normal. So no advantage, right? Okay. Normal.
No advantage.
I got an 8. So that's not. Is that?
So
just the
on
help
a
roll
7 to
now.
9, you choose +1 on their roll, but you
No
expose
advantage.
yourself to danger. So what we see is as a tentacle reaches towards Blackwin, Callum leaps in front of it, and the tentacle wraps itself around him, avoiding Blackwin. So that gets you another one. That gets you to 7 on no limits, Blackwin.
Yep.
What does that do?
So on no limits, I do it, but I'll take the harm. As I do it,
Yeah.
I obviously get whipped about by the tentacles. I like to imagine that as well as kind of like jumping from one to the other, he's also just literally like pulling them away from him as he goes. Like when one comes in at him, he just wrenches it and like shatters it with his bare hands as he goes.
Yeah, that works for me. And if both of those tentacles had made contact, you might well have been looking at the fate of Eric.
Yeah.
And so what we see is you've made your way through. Callum is sacrificing himself. Ivirius is hacking with his shield and knife at stuff, trying to clear away. And you disappear into the roiling mass at the center of the tower. What are you going to do when you're in there?
I think
You're muted.
Too excited. It's going to slam the pendant down into the divot, in the ground. If he can still reach it, I assume it's still glowing white hot, right? And he's going to, one hand holding the pendant, the other hand holding his axe, and he's just going to slash across at a tentacle that comes down from him, and then slam it into the ground as he sort of rolls across the space.
I think that what we're seeing then, your no limits has got you in there. You now need to face danger. But remember, you can spend a fate point to invoke your justice to put right what you did wrong to improve the quality of this roll. So face danger, do your stuff.
Cool. And it's rolling with advantage if I spend my fate, correct? Is that right?
No, if it will improve the roll by 1 step.
Cool. Well, that's good because it's a 7 rather than it's a 6 to 7 to 9 rather than a complete failure.
So 10 on face danger, you achieve what you set out to do. So you disappear. It's becoming a comic book now because there are these roiling.
No, it's actually a 7 to 9 purely because of that spending the fate. So it's I get a worse outcome, a hard choice, or a price to pay, which I think is fitting in this situation.
I think it is. I think that you take 2 harm. No, I'm going to make it worse than that. You take 5 harm. 4 harm, taking you to 5, which makes you unstable.
Yeah.
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 So these things are crushing you as you reach the pendant down and slam it onto the floor. Callum is outside, having the life squeezed out of him. Ivirius is about to drown in tentacles as he desperately tries to hack his way free. And at the point the pendant touches that central glowing white lock, every tentacle shatters into flint. And the king in Flint is no longer in the world. You have saved Synhamm.
Well, from our own making. So it's not really what we're sent here to do, I don't think.
Well, the gate was must have been opened. There must have been a crack in the gate already.
Yeah, that's why Eric was moving.
Yeah. So, well done. Congratulations for saving Synhamm from its curse.
Sorry about that.
And as I'll epilogue you a bit, as Blackwin is being treated in the Great Hall, the curtain draws aside, and out comes a limping old man, and he says, "Have I been asleep?"
And it's the Jarl, I imagine.
It is. Yes. It is. So well done. Well done. We have overrun, so I'm not going to keep you much longer. But again, can I just offer roses all round? I thought let me reassure you, this has never been played where all the characters want to do the same thing at the end. Yeah. Somebody always fails that role when they pick up the pendant for the first time and become influenced by the King in Flint. And what the King in Flint wants is to have it close to them, but not in the lock. So you just played that with great panache, guys. So, all credit to you. That went really well. There was a real sense of tension in the bottom of that cellar, I think. With Avirius not certain what to do, Callum thinking he should do this. What about Eric? Blackwin worried about it. So you really played that well, guys. It was great to watch. So that's my rose to all of you. Do you have any roses to pass about? In any order you fancy?
I like that Avirius committed to the, not knowing what to do and didn't metagame it entirely. Because I knew that this was the dangerous thing to do, but I also wanted to see what would happen. And I was very glad to see that somebody else was committing to a bit to see, like, it's spoken to me, and now I'm going to do what it's spoken to me. I mean, I think that makes sense for a man of God, right? God's telling me to do this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that all of you played the character, not the game, which is, as a referee, you can't ask for more than that. Vasilius, anything?
Yeah, great. I think that was a really nice climax with the the pendant and that conflict. And I think also Callum's last words, like after his wake, he says, "Did you see that black wind? I flew. I was flying," because he was flying with a
being tossed about by
tentacles. Yeah. No. Overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and also I like the pendant was both the lock in a sense, but also a way for the king to be unleashed. So I liked that tension. So
good,
very nice.
Anything else, Erez?
Yeah, I like how at the beginning we had no idea what to do. We were totally lost, and by the end we're saving everyone. That was nice. Like, we had no idea it's going to end up this way.
Well, isn't that the nature of the hero's journey? The call to adventure. So, Thorns.
My only thing was, and I don't know if it's just because of our characters and perhaps the way that they are, is that I didn't know how to. I feel like we still don't know where the influence came over the Jarl, and I'm not sure how we would have found that out. Like the hooks maybe within Synhamm itself, rather than we were very reliant on the Loon's moves to get leads.
Yeah, in every time I've played this, either the Loon begins to see the pattern, or the priest begins to determine that there's a connection between the Jarl and the king, or sometimes the pagan mystic does it. So you were very based in the real world rather than the mystical world. But in fairness to Vasilius, I think he worked that see the pattern heavily.
Yeah. I did. So I know I was interrupting when Vasilius was using his move. I just wanted to remind him of how he could. You don't need to spend your hold immediately. You can advance, like he picked up the coin, right? And that provided a thing that he could then use his move for, kind of thing.
Yeah, I have to say that I was remembering what you said last time about your.
No, I know, yeah, entirely.
So
yeah.
I was trying to manage that a bit more actively. Yeah. Anything, Vasilius or Erez? Any thorns?
I'm sad I didn't get to lose my last fate and see what happens. Like, I couldn't find any reason to just use it. I couldn't see anything. So,
no, I mean, and to burn through it all this quickly is it's the nature of, it's a relatively short. If we had another 2 sessions, you might have been thinking a bit more worried conservatively about it.
2 more sessions, I would never have gotten done so far.
Vasilius, any thorns?
Not really. Just that I would, I would like to play it for a bit longer so that I see the fate and the progression of the character. Yeah, that part is the one that I didn't really explore. But yeah, other than that, really enjoyable. So.
Well, I do plan to run a series of 4 sessions, but probably not until the summer, to be honest, because I'm going to do some Achtung Dark Thulu in May. And I'm away for a bit of June, so it'll be July before I run another 4 sessions. But yeah, there is the Synhamm Alliance to come. So, keep your eyes open.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Of course.
Just about what was the link to the between the Jarl's family? I know he was cursed perhaps because of what he did, but that's happened long after the Roman, the king in Flint died, right? Or was captured.
Only one group has ever got that deep into it. But the rationale I used then was that actually the king in Flint is actually really pissed off with whoever rules Synhamm. And the reason that Ciarl could take out the Romano Brits was because the king still has some influence in that ruling line, whoever the ruling line is. And so it begins to run down the line of Prince Ciarl to the current generation. But I have to say, they spent a lot of time talking to people about legends and, tell us about the previous rulers, what's said about them. And so you've got to dig pretty deep for that one.
That's a really good explanation, because I was struggling to think of it otherwise.
Yeah, but I've managed to get all of that done in a face-to-face con 4 hours, but online is a much more. It moves more slowly because your bandwidth around the table is much higher, so you can get more done. Stuff overlaps more.
I think my only thought is perhaps maybe part of the Gauntlet experience in general, because I think this is all of our first games, really, right? Or maybe not Erez, but the fact that it's harder to have conversations between players rather than, it's very much a conversation between each player and the GM, and then you have a few little scenes together, but like to talk as players rather than as characters is harder.
I think that's absolutely true. My comparison is that when you're face to face around a table, it's like a dinner party. When you're playing online, it's like a conference call where you're managing a structured conversation. And I think that inevitably slows down play. The thing I'm noticing is that because this is only the 5th session I've run online, is that I didn't think I had enough material in this for 4 sessions. Whereas what this is telling me is I got more than enough.
Hey, this is a play by the apocalypse. It doesn't matter if you have the material or not.
Well, yeah.
You cheaters. There you go.
Yeah, you could have done. I might not have accelerated you so quickly to the tower.
Yeah.
But thanks for that feedback. Really helpful. And thanks for playing. Really enjoyed it. Hope to play with you again. So keep an eye out. And keep on playing.
Yeah, I would love to play more of this. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the characters that we got, and I think that the roles of the characters, like the loon and I think they bring them to life. Like they really evoke like a time and a place and a character as well.
Oh, that's really nice. Good. I'm pleased about that.
I think all 3 characters were great, and in character, like the guy who doesn't speak much but had to say a lot somewhere there in the middle, but it was like struggling for words.
It's because we missed the priest. We lost the priest.
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, any 4th player is useful because they bring another bit of skill set, whatever they're playing. Yeah. So, I mean, if you manage to get into that game, probably July, if I'm being realistic, I'll put a full shot on. Then feel free to bring characters back. We will roll on with those characters. Okay. There's a slight problem with that because I'm running this 3 times at the minute. Overlapping. So if we have 3 hammers of the gods who come back, that's going to be a bit tricky, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, guys, I'm going to wish you good night and thanks for your contribution. It's been a good game. I'll stop the broadcast.